Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. This is your host, Gianni DePoce. It's Friday again, so that means it's time to review what happened this week. So it was a pretty choppy week in equity markets, saw a lot of sideways action, but the geocosmics were pretty relaxing, and that may have led to some complacency. Specifically, we had a trine aspect between Venus and Jupiter on the 15th of November, and then Venus ingressed into the sign of of Sagittarius, on the 16th of November, and then Mercury followed right after on the 17th. So let me go ahead and share my screen here as we see that stocks, looking at the Dow here, basically just consolidated their gains that have been recorded over the last couple weeks. So, right now we're up a little bit on Friday off the lows of Thursday, but fading a little bit off of the highs. If we go ahead and look at the NASDAQ, we'll see how the NASDAQ continues to underperform rather dramatically, but can't help but wonder how much longer this underperformance will continue, given that Saturn really only has about 3-4 months left in the sign of Aquarius, which rules tech, which has led to the depression in the performance of technology, the technology sector. So that's how we're seeing stocks right now. Looking ahead into the next week, we have a square aspect between Mars and Neptune on the 19th, followed by some more Jupiter signatures. We have the Sun trining Jupiter on the 20th of November, followed by Jupiter ending his retrograde motion in Pisces. Will go direct, stationary direct on the 23rd of November, and then will be in Pisces until the 20th of December, and then at which point Jupiter will ingress back into the sign of Aries. So let's actually look at crude oil real quick. We'll take a look at the USO ETF here. Pretty sharp sell-off going into the weekend here, but with all those Jupiter signatures highlighted next week, could look for a reversal of some sort, not to mention Mars square Neptune had some news here on Friday that some natural gas transportation was going to pick back up and the production could increase here. So perhaps market digesting an a higher supply factor going forward. That is a Jupiter angle to be looked at, no doubt, but we'll see how that turns out going into the remainder of the year. I want to take a look at precious metals here. I'm going to look at the, let's look at the spot gold. Gold pulling back a little bit here. Typically, one of our rules is that gold does not like Jupiter. In other words, whenever there's a lot of Jupiter aspects, gold doesn't seem to do as well. And we see how we rallied to a new high this past week, pulling back a little bit into the weekend. But also, if we look at silver, silver pulling back as well. We've also been dealing with heliocentric Mercury going through Sagittarius as well. So we have our MMA studies on those. Would encourage you to check those out at www.mmacycles.com. We talk about those in our reports. Also want to look at the US dollar, which is basically consolidating these losses over the past couple weeks here. So as a rule, consolidation of losses could be bearish price action, but we do know that the interest rate factor at hand here, there is still a lot of concern in the world about the global economy and geopolitics, which tends to be a boon for the US dollar. But as we get, as Uranus starts to mature in its transit through the sign of Taurus, which has been very bullish for the US dollar, specifically when thinking about currencies, one can't help but wonder how much longer this dollar bull market could last. And certainly not least, taking a look at the 10-year interest rate here, going out near the lows of the week as well. This obviously presents an issue with respect to liquidity in the financial markets. But as we've been talking or writing in the last few weeks for forecast 2023, a lot of planetary, a lot of outer planets changing signs next year, which I think could have a big impact on debt markets. Not to mention, Pluto going into Aquarius in March, and then you have Saturn going into Pisces in March as well. But definitely keep an eye on Jupiter going into Taurus next year as well, because in the same day that Jupiter ingresses into Taurus, it will form a square aspect to Pluto. So that's something that was discussed at length in the interest rate outlook and forecast 2023. Would definitely recommend that you check that out. But in the short term, this past week, we had the monthly ETF report just published. So that was sent out yesterday on the 17th. Would encourage you to check that out. We cover 8 different ETFs, a variety of different sectors for traders and investors who don't have the risk appetite for futures and leveraged markets to have MMA analysis in a cash market. So that takes care of what we're looking at right now. Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll be back next week. Same time, same place. Have a great weekend.